Hello. Today's episode is going to be one of my threading my ways, but this is an international one. So I'm going to take you into Europe. There's going to be Netherlands, Germany, so stick around for some international fabric and thrift finds. Hey everyone, made it to Europe and more specifically the Netherlands. So we are going to go on a day out. We're going to either go to Düsseldorf or Cologne. We're going to go on a local day out in the Netherlands. I've been pinning fabric shops on my Google Maps, looking up thrifted places. This is going to be a pretty big adventure. Let's talk about Cologne. So I did a bit of research. We didn't really want to drive right into the centre of Cologne because, well, who wants to drive in a city? So I found that they have a lot of park and ride called P&R locations, but they're not like park and rides in the UK. So park and rides in the UK are normally huge parking spaces and regular buses will transport you into the city centre. In Cologne, the park and rides are much smaller and many of them are situated near train stations or the tram, and the train is the S-Bahn, and so it's a bit like an overground tube. That's the best way I could describe it in London. And so when we got there, we found the furthest one out to reduce the amount of driving inside of Cologne. It was a small car park. Luckily, we found a space, but you could end up getting there and there being no spaces. I can't tell whether it's all people commuting for their job and whether the spaces are gone for the day or whether it rotates, but there are so many that we picked the furthest one out so that if there wasn't space we could drive to the next one. And it was really straightforward. Their website was very clear and it also gave you advice about buying just a day Cologne travel ticket, which meant we could use the transport within Cologne, and that covers the cost of the parking as well. You don't have to pay for the parking. That is free as long as you are using their public transport. So that was a nice way to enter the city without having to drive around busy, tight streets. And so once we got to the city, the cathedral is right next to the train station. I'd picked out a couple of fabric shops, so we headed off to the first one and it was called Self-Made. And I've been in a lot of fabric shops now and I've dragged my other half to quite a few fabric shops, and we both agreed that it's one of the nicest ones we'd ever been in. It had the sort of spacious airiness that felt like you was in a warehouse, but it was curated and calm and organised like a shop. So it was sort of the best of both worlds. There was a fabulous selection of fabric. And when I say fabulous, I mean if you wanted to buy a t-shirt style jersey fabric, there was every colour. If you wanted tubular ribbing, there was every colour. Same with corduroy, sweatshirt, linen, and it was all organised by fabric types. They had some really good reductions, as they called them, on, and of course I had a good look in those as well. But they also had a good range of findings, from like piping to the ends that you put on like sweatshirt cording, patches, all sorts of things. So it was a really lovely, well organised, well curated shop, and of course purchases were made. I will show you them in a bit, so hang in there. After that we headed off and had lunch at the Hard Rock Cafe, and then we had a mooch around some board game shops, headed over to find a bookshop, and whilst we were on our way to do that we also went in another fabric shop that I had noted down, and this one was called It had a lot more upholstery type fabrics and canvases, but they did have a selection of dressmaking fabrics as well. The shop had a bit more of like a cliquey feel, in that the staff seemed to want to help you, which was nice, but then were really sort of focused on someone that they were new and were chatting to. However, I'm not put off by that. I said I'm just looking and I might buy. They had a lot less findings in the shop, but it was another nice shop and had different things. And I found the sale rack as well. There are other fabric shops within Cologne, and some are a little further out, so you would catch public transport to those. But 2 was enough for my purse and for me carrying, because obviously I'd got to carry these all back to the train station as well. And there is plenty of lovely museums and things like that, but by that point of the day it was getting quite warm, so we went and sat by the River Rhine and just watched the world go by for a bit, which was very nice, before we headed back to the train station. I haven't been to Cologne for 30 years, so I have no memory of what it used to be like, but what I would say is there seems to be that mix like you get in cities of the mainstream shops, so you could find H&M, Primark, Uniqlo, but then they're sort of nice independent or German based shops. So we found a gorgeous stationery shop, really lovely. There was like their home shop, there was quite a few of those around. It looked a bit like sort of Flying Tiger type things. And of course we went in an independent bookshop because we was looking for a book in German for someone. And so yeah, there was that nice balance of the two. It didn't feel just like there was the commercial, but that all seemed to be squeezed into one area. So I bet you want to see what I got. So we will start with what I found in Self-Made. So in Self-Made there are trolleys that you can put the bolts in that you pick up. Love a trolley. I didn't use one though because I thought just be thoughtful, got to carry this around. And of course I was drawn to the jersey section. You know I love a jersey. And when I saw this one, I just couldn't resist. The word autumnal is the only word possible to use. Have I got it the right way around? No, let's get it around the right way for you. This is just going to make the perfect sort of turtleneck to go with those trousers that I made last autumn. So like I've got burgundy, purple, orange and green. It's just, I've never seen a print quite like this. I love trees, so that was a yes from me. So how much did I get? I think I got 1.5 meters. There is a sticky label on it somewhere. Oh, their sticky label has washing instructions. So, using my GCSE and A-level German from many years ago, so it is a digital print. I've got 1.5 meters, 95% cotton, 5% elastane, and it even tells you there like what to wash it at. And yes, I spent €24 on that. So that makes, I think it was about, I don't know, it's about 15, would that be right? Yeah, it was about 15 or 16 euros a metre, but it was too gorgeous not to have. And then, as I say, they had some really great choices of tubular ribbing, and all their tubular ribbing was half price. So I got 0.5 metre of this, so I only paid €1.63 for this nice blue, like a blue marl. And again, this is, yes, melange, love that word. So cobalt melange, 72% cotton, 24% polyester, 4% elastane. And then I got it in this lovely violet as well. So that was also €1.63. God, I love a bargain. And that's the same mixture as well, that's the same type. And then near the front they had some pre-cut jerseys, and this one caught my eye. It's an apple print on a lilac checkerboard. Now these were pre-cut, so this was pre-cut to 1.5 meters and was €10.88 for 1.5 meters. So that seemed very reasonable, and again 92% cotton, 8% elastane. So that again, just a perfect top for in the autumn. have trousers that exact colour and that colour, so it just feels like a really fun print for one of those layering tops that you can wear on its own or with jumpers and it just poking out at the top. As I say though, they also had great findings in the shop, and they had a lot of them reduced, so I was having a good look. So this is an elastic sort of edging, not quite picot, but it's almost like it's crocheted. And then some really fun labels. This one says "This took forever." I thought that'd be great on a pair of jeans. And this one, couldn't resist this patch, looks s'mores. And this one says "Self-expression." Little cherry one. As I said, some really great cording. Easy to make the other half some sweatshirts. This piping is fantastic, this green striped piping. And I love this one, it's massive, but it says, "Hey stranger, what are you looking at? Guess who made this?" I mean, it's huge. I don't know what I'd put it on, but I just loved it. So that had to come home, and it was reduced. So there we go, so that was self-made. I could have spent a long time in there. If I'd had like a list of what I was going to make next, you could definitely find what you wanted. It was a really good selection. So as I say, the other shop had some nice things, wasn't as such a wide selection, but I headed over to the sale section and picked up these two. So this is a stretch denim, and this was reduced to €8 a metre. It's got star print on it, and it's got a really good amount of stretch. So a pair of trousers will be happening in that. And then this was reduced to €6 a metre, and this is I would say a viscous jersey. And that's definitely another autumnal print there. So yeah, I'm kind of shopped ready for autumn. So she actually only had 2.4 left, and I wanted 2 metres, so she gave it to me for 2.2 metres. I mean, I would have given it to someone for 2, but so there we go. So would I recommend fabric shopping in Copenhagen? Yes, why am I saying? Would I recommend fabric shopping in Cologne? Yes, I would. I would say that if you particularly are looking for like nice jersey prints, they had a good range of different coloured stripes. I had real trouble resisting like the lovely green and purple stripes and polka dots, but also they had like dance wear, they had the stretch elastics for making underwear, they had a huge selection of like ripstop and gym wear and swimwear fabrics. They had everything, so you would, whatever the project, you would have a really good choice. And I felt that there was a range of price points. I felt many of them are more towards the sort of fabric godmother pricing than some of the other places I shop from, but both of them had reductions and I found them, so there was bargains to be had. But definitely would recommend self-made. And so yeah, if you're ever doing like a city trip, it's definitely one you could combine in with your sewing shopping as well. So what next? We have more adventures planned for this week, so we're going to head off to a town in the Netherlands, and it looks like there may be some thrifting and fabric things that we might be able to find around that area too, so I should continue to take you along with me.
Industrial.
It's really long. Let's go past the window a minute. So we are back from our day out in Weert. I want to say Weert, it's W-E-E-R-T. Someone I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if I'm saying that in Dutch correctly. It was surprising, lovely little town. Some random facts for you about this town. So fact number 1, it isn't a town, it is a city. It has been a city since 1414. So it has quite an quite a historic origins. I'm being shouted the word medieval from the other room. It says its golden age was the mid-15th and 16th century. The city was influenced by the Counts of Horn from the 13th century. And they were famous. One of the main count, Philip of Horn, was beheaded in Brussels during the 80 Years' War. There is a medieval city well that was found, and it is also the greenest city in the Netherlands. We didn't venture outside sort of the main inhabited area, but there are swimming, petting zoos, nature walks, a reservoir. It says it's got a red deer population. It's definitely a city you could do more than one day in. We definitely didn't feel like there was a lot of tourists. We felt that it was mostly locals there. And there is the Vlaai, I'll put the word on the screen, which is a fruit tart or flan. I did go in a bakery. I don't know if I got the right thing, but it did feel like it was some kind of fruity flan. And they have their own local dialect, which has 28 vowels, which is quite amazing. And the church in the centre of the city, St Martin's Church, has a 72-metre tall tower, and it has a range of bells, and every time it rang it played a different tune, which I'm not sure I've come across before. They have a range of events and festivals. There was the Bose Pop Festival coming up actually, and there was lots of sort of 90s bands that we recognised on the flyer. And it is also considered the gateway to the Limburg region, and it does say it's easily accessible. I would agree with that. The roads were an absolute pleasure to drive on, and it was we arrived about 10 a.m. and it was quite quiet. Love to get somewhere when it's only waking up. By 11 it was bustling and busy, and by 12 the centre of the market was full of people having coffees and lunches, and we actually sat down in one of those central cafes and had our lunch, and I had a feta sandwich with mango chutney, guacamole and salad, arugula, which I didn't know was another word for rocket, and we did ask for the menu in English, which they had, but we have been using Google Lens Translate a lot, which has been really helpful. But it was delicious. I need to use mango chutney in more of my food, I think. So I did find a fabric shop. We didn't go there because there was a fabric shop. Once we decided we would go there, I then obviously started looking at Google Maps, looking at things like I like to do once I've chosen a place. And there was a fabric shop, and oh my goodness, I can't believe how big it was. That was completely unexpected. I think they had the biggest range of zips I've seen, and the button selection was huge. But what blew my mind more than anything else was the range of trimmings. Now, I've been to a lot of fabric shops, I've been to a lot of markets. It felt like they had some of their trimmings from like the 80s and 90s and they were still there. It felt like the shop had a good history, and it was the biggest selection. They had a whole section of different coloured cords, piping, there was ladder lace, there was a lace section, there was a huge section of like cords like that you could use for bags. I just was actually blown away by the choice and the price of them. Most of them were less than €1 per metre, which is not like that in a lot of the places I found in the UK. And now I know it's a city, kind of makes more sense that it was a big shop. I'll put the name on the screen because I can't remember the name. And shock horror, I didn't buy any fabric. It wasn't because they didn't have nice choice there, but nothing just really leapt out at me as being different. They did have a really great selection of Ponte. I do not want to carry 2.5 metres of Ponte around, which is what I would need for a pair of trousers. But it was a lovely selection. But I did get a really good range of trimmings, because actually that's what I felt in the shop that I couldn't find anywhere else. And that's what I kind of like to do when I'm looking, is what can I find that's different. They also had a selection of fabric labels, some that feel like they must have bought like as a wholesale dead stock or something, because there was like a Puma label that would go inside clothing. There were some really random ones. I'll show you what I got. There's this one, not entirely sure what that says. This one was just a fun summer vibe. This one again just appealed to me. They had a lot of like leather labels that you could sew on the back of a pair of jeans, and I picked up this elastic waistband. Sorry, I'm a bit sleepy today. So let me show you the trims I got. So this was like a broider anglaise in lilac, and with most of them I either got 5 metres or 3 metres, because I thought I won't be popping back to get some. This felt like I could trap this into a collar or along the bottom of a skirt, so I needed a good amount. It was some of them were like 50 cents a metre. One of them was 25 and one of them was 70. This one is an interesting one. It's like it's on jersey, but it's then got the scallop. So I thought that would be really interesting down like there or around a collar. Some jumbo rickrack that's really quite soft. This very fine purple knitted one. 2 different ladder laces, so I got this teal one and a really quite wide open white one, which again I thought would be lovely trapped in towards the bottom of a skirt or in the yoke on the back of a top. And this final one was just, it was just different. I could have got so many, there were so many good ones. This one is on stretch but has like this sort of lovely, almost like lettuce edge. So I just thought this was just really great fun. That could be lovely around like a sleeve, in a collar again, around the top of like some underwear. It's really soft. So there we go. That is what I got in the fabric shop, which is, as I say, perhaps a surprise. I didn't buy any fabric, and there was a lot of choice. They had ripstop in every colour. They had, as I say, Ponte. They just had a really good selection if it was like your local fabric shop, and I felt the prices were fairly fair as well, which was good. In classic me style, I did a bit of research to find out if there was one of these sort of out of town thrift/charity shops that I've become aware that are in the Netherlands. So on our way back from there to where we're staying, I did find one, and it was very close to just driving back. There wasn't much of a detour, so it was sort of in a little sort of industrial estate, really close to like a residential area, had lots of parking, was really lovely from the outside, looked very modern, it looked like it hadn't been there very long, but oh my goodness, it was huge. But there was lots of bedding and tablecloths, so I had a really good explore there. And if you are a member, you will get to see what I got in there and some more details about that. So, would I go there again? Yes, I would. I feel there's more to the city that we could explore. I feel that I would definitely go back to visit the fabric shop, and there was another fabric shop, but it wasn't open when we went. I'd looked that up and seen that they were closed for a bit of July, like they were on holiday or something. And just slightly further out in the city, I think there was a Singer sewing machine museum, we'd kind of done for the day, so we didn't go, and obviously it was only me that wanted to go. But it's definitely a city that I would want to return to revisit other things for sure. And the parking was really simple. We just looked up on Google parking. There was various car parks. We chose the Center parking, and it was very easy to use. And at the end, we just put the card in the machine and paid. And I found it quite reasonable for a city centre parking price. And it was the kind of car park where when you want to get back in, you had to show your ticket to this machine. So it was only letting people back in who'd parked, which I kind of like, because it kind of makes it just a bit more, I don't know, it just feels a bit safer, doesn't it? But there was a good range of parking options. We walked to a local supermarket that was in the city to grab a few bits back on the way to the car. There was cars, but it wasn't chock-a-block. There was plenty of pedestrian crossing. There was plenty of pedestrianised areas. So it's definitely a place that is sort of very friendly to people just wanted to have a wander around. And yeah, as I say, I would definitely go there again, if nothing else, just for that cafe culture of sitting out in the sunshine. So, I really hope you've enjoyed this new episode of Threading My Way. If you want to see the extras, then you will need to become a member. If you click down below, you can find out all the information about it, where I share what I got at the thrift store, behind the scenes, tour of my villa, all of those sorts of things. So for now, it's me over and out, and I'll see you again soon.